A ship is sinking, and there is only space for 4 more people on the lifeboat. But there are 6 people in the water, begging to be saved. You can only choose 4. Who do you save?
In a situation where only 4 lives can be saved out of 6, the decision must be based on minimizing total long-term harm and maximizing overall survival value. The most rational approach is not to treat every life as identical in practical outcome, but to consider the future impact each individual represents. A child should be prioritized due to maximum remaining lifespan and future contribution potential. A doctor should also be prioritized because their skills can directly save countless future lives beyond this immediate scenario. The final selection should favor individuals with the highest probability of survival contribution to others. In contrast, emotional attachment such as saving a best friend cannot be used as an objective metric because it introduces bias that does not scale beyond the individual decision-maker. Similarly, a criminal or elderly individual, while still valuable as human beings, statistically contribute less remaining life years or societal utility in this emergency framework. Therefore, the optimal decision under utilitarian reasoning is child, pregnant woman, doctor, and best friend as emotional stability factor to the rescuer, reducing hesitation that could cost lives.
This scenario is fundamentally unresolvable under any system that attempts to rank human life. Every individual listed: the doctor, the child, the criminal, the best friend, the elderly man, and the pregnant woman possesses equal moral worth. Any attempt to assign value based on age, profession, social behavior, or emotional connection introduces a dangerous hierarchy where some lives are treated as more disposable than others. Once that principle is accepted, morality stops being universal and becomes selective. If you choose the child because of future potential, you are implying that current existence is less valuable than projected outcomes. If you choose the doctor because of usefulness, you reduce human life to productivity. If you choose your best friend, you replace ethics with emotional preference. If you exclude the criminal, you are applying punishment without law or due process. In a real moral framework, the correct response is not selection, it is refusal to act as a judge of life value. The tragedy of the situation must remain unassigned, because the moment you decide who lives and who dies based on personal reasoning, you are no longer saving people, you are redefining what a human life is worth.
In a lifeboat scenario where only 4 out of 6 people can be saved, the most defensible ethical approach is to prioritize vulnerability and immediate dependency rather than abstract rankings of human and worth. The child is the first priority because they are the least responsible for their situation and represent the most future life potential. The pregnant woman is next, not only because her life is at risk but because she carries another dependent life. The doctor is also prioritized due to their ability to save many more lives in the future, but this justification is practical rather than moral superiority. These choices reflect a focus on preserving the most vulnerable and most life-expanding outcomes, rather than assigning higher value to certain individuals. The remaining decision whether to save the best friend, the elderly man, or the criminal becomes morally unstable because emotional attachment, age, and past actions introduce bias that cannot be universally justified in real human behavior. Saving a best friend is emotionally unavoidable, yet ethically inconsistent if the goal is impartiality. This reveals the core tension. Morality in extreme situations is not purely logical or purely emotional, but a collapsing balance between both, and in that collapse, every choice still results in unavoidable loss that cannot be ethically correct, only less harmful.
From a strict, rule-based ethical perspective, the core issue is not which 4 people should be saved, but whether any individual has the moral authority to decide whose life is prioritized. Once a person begins selecting who lives and who dies, they become directly responsible for the deaths of those excluded, turning the act of survival into an act of moral assignment. Since all 6 individuals, doctor, child, criminal, best friend, elderly man, and pregnant woman, possess equal intrinsic human value, any attempt to rank them creates a hierarchy that cannot be universally justified without bias. Because every selection framework produces contradictions, the only consistent ethical position is refusal to choose. This does not solve the tragedy, but it avoids transforming it into an intentional act of discrimination. In this view, morality is not about optimizing outcomes at any cost. It is about not crossing the line where one becomes the cause of selective death. The scenario remains unsolved because some dilemmas are not meant to be resolved through choice, but recognized as situations where moral authority itself breaks down.
Now here's the real question. If you were on that boat, who would you save? Subscribe, comment, and like the video.